If you're not familiar with AARP is the nation's largest nonprofit, nonpartisan organization dedicated to empowering people to choose how they live as they age. With nearly 38 million members in offices in every state, plus Washington, D.C., Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands, AARP works to strengthen communities and advocate for what matters most, with the focus on health security, financial resilience, and social connection. Today's program focuses on financial resilience, which is part of our social change agenda. So who's in the audience today? Please put it in the chat if you haven't already done so. Your first name, what city you're Zooming from. So Joyce, who do you see in the chat?
Oh, hi, Jacqueline. Oh, I'm so excited. We have a gamut of members coming in this morning, starting from San Francisco, Stan, Huntington Beach, Kathy, Glendale, Letitia, San Diego, we have Maria and Torn, and from Stevenson Ranch, we have Shay, Los Angeles in the house, Annie, Penny, Nikki, Nancy, Vince, El Cajon, Deborah. Oh my goodness, I can keep going on. We have San Jose, Whittier, San Francisco, Reno, Nevada. Okay, I'm exhausted. Take it away.
We thank everyone for being here with us today. Did anyone get the answer to the trivia question? At what time is afternoon tea traditionally taken? Between 1 and 3 p.m., between 3 p.m. and 6 p.m., or between 5 p.m. and 8 p.m.? Who do we have? Do you have any answers?
Yeah, I have a couple. Julie said from 5 to 8. We have Edwin from 3 and 6. Oh, we have another person from 3 to 6. Oh, Nancy, 3 to 6. Patricia, 3 to 6. Oh, we got a lot of 3 to 6s. Kathy, no. Okay. Annie. Oh, okay, what's the answer, Jacqueline?
So the answer is 3 p.m. and 6 p.m.
Wow.
Afternoon tea was introduced in England by Anna, the 7th Duchess of Bedford, in the year 1840. The Duchess would become hungry around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. The evening meal in her household was served fashionably late at 8 o'clock, and thus leaving a long period of time between lunch and dinner. The Duchess asked that a tray of tea, bread, and butter, and cake be brought to her room during the late afternoon. This became a habit of hers, and she began inviting friends to join her. I know Marla loves tea, but Joyce, what kind of tea do you like?
I like the oolong tea. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of that one, but that is my favorite oolong. And it's long, but I just do a little bit of sipping with my tea. How about you, Jacqueline?
Oh, I love orange spice tea and green tea.
Wow.
Yeah, anything hot to drink, especially this time of year. So thanks everyone for introducing yourself. We have an exciting speaker today. We're delighted to have all of you join us and hope you have your coffee, tea, and other beverage with you. We're excited to share with you making every cent count. It is my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker, project manager from our AARP Financial Resilience Team, Martin Booker. Martin Booker is a program manager at AARP, where he leads various financial education initiatives about investing, Social Security, and budgeting. After receiving a master's in social work at the University of Connecticut, Martin worked in the nonprofit sector in Washington, D.C., and developed a passion for helping people improve their money habits. He completed the Certified Financial Planner program at Georgetown University and began to teach others about money in a practical and actionable way. Today, Martin offers individual and group coaching services, classes, and leads workshops about credit, investing, retirement planning, and other finance-related topics. He uses speaking opportunities to engage and educate to better understand how to not just make money, but keep your money. And per our tradition, here are a few fun facts about Martin. Martin is a newfound dog parent. His favorite pandemic puppy is Gia. He loves to cook. His new favorite item is world famous cabbage. And Martin has been on international TV and radio in Trinidad, like in Trinidad, and he plays tennis competitively. Martin's busy. So delighted to have you join us today, Martin. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. All right. Am I taking it from here? Is it all?
Yes.
All right. Perfect. So thank you for having me, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. It's a little more chilly where I am today, but that's okay. I'm here in Washington, D.C. So send me your warm weather. Just send me all of your warm embrace today, because we still got a little bit of snow melting here in DC, but I'm so excited to be here. So I'm looking forward to having this conversation. Today, we get to talk about just some of those great ways to extend our savings and just make that dollar stretch a little longer throughout the month or throughout the week, or however long you're saving for. So I'm excited to be here with you all. So a couple of things, before we dive into the content, I do want to say, of course, if you're on mute, please mute. All right, there we go. So yeah, please mute while you can. We will be in the chat, and we can converse in the chat. So if you have some things that you want to mention, if you hear something that just resonates with you, feel free to talk in the chat or say what you have to say. Feel free to put your questions in the chat, because we will have some time for Q&A. So if you have a burning question, feel free to add it to the chat, and we'll make sure that we get to that question as we go along. So the other thing I want to mention is, for everything that we're saying, some things are going to work for you. Some things are going to be exciting and new. Some things you may look at and say, not a chance. I would never do that. That is perfectly fine. I always say personal finance is personal, right? So what works for me may not work for you, and what works for the next person, it works perfectly for the next person, may not be your cup of tea. And by cup of tea, I mean cup of tea. So feel free to take what works, but then also for other things, just pass it along. It may work better for someone else. So throughout this conversation, you're going to hear some great things. You may hear some things that aren't your, that may not be your favorite, and that's perfectly fine, because personal finance is personal. So let's start off with a couple of poll questions. I want to get to know you. You got to hear my bio a little bit, so I want to know a couple of things about you. So our first poll question is on the screen. The first thing: do you desire to save more money per month? Feel free to say no if you're already saving as much as you need to, or if you're like, I'm perfectly fine. I am in a spend down situation where you are spending your money and you're perfectly fine with that, then that's okay as well. So I see our responses are rolling in. We have over 50 responses, lots of yeses, but we have some no's, and that's perfectly fine. All right, and we still have a little bit more time, so feel free to answer. But the question is, do you desire to save more money per month? And the answers are rolling. All right, so we have the answer for that one. So we have a lot of yeses. We have 82% of you all who said yes, and then we have 18% who said no. So thanks for that. And if you want to explain or just drop a few comments in the chat about your answer, then feel free to do so. That's just going to help me to know more. So we got a lot of people who do want to save. So I'm glad you're here. Question number 2: what would it take for you to save more money? And you just click your answer on the screen. So you'll see the poll popped up, and our choices are make more money, just lower our expenses, or just be more disciplined. Yes. Was that a question? Okay. Well, feel free to mute when you come in. Just feel free to hit mute if you can. All right. The answers are rolling in. Lower expenses. I'm seeing a lot of lower expenses. Make a little bit more money. That's okay. I see that one coming in. And discipline. I'll tell you, we're going to talk about discipline too. That's always a good one. That's a tough one. I'll be honest. Okay. Yep. I see some answer coming into the chat. Oh yeah. I see someone said I picked 2. For some people, we should have put all of the above there, right? I'm sure we got some people who wouldn't mind all of the above. Oh yes. Julie, I see Julie in the chat. Inflation. That inflation has been a big one. Oh, that's a good. Someone said not save, but conserve what we have. They'd like to just kind of balance it out and make what you have last longer. I like that. All right, the answers are rolling in. So that poll has ended. So we have one more poll question that we'll do, and save for travel. So this one, I am naturally a what? Saver, spender, money maker. I always say that I think all of us, we have a natural tendency to do one of these things really well. Some of us, we're naturally growers of money. We're really good at like investing and making our money grow as well. But let's see, what would you say? Are you usually, for the money maker, you're probably the high income, you've been a high income earner most of your life, or you've been the one who can, take on multiple opportunities and just make money. That's something that you do with ease. The spender, we know, you can, you don't mind swiping that card, or you don't mind going online. And then the saver, of course, you're that person who just likes to hold on to your money. You either hold on to your money well, or you're also that really good bargain shopper. You will find every deal, and you will research a deal, and you will take your time to make sure that you get the deal. So where do you find yourself lying? And then, so I'm not sure. That's actually, that's okay as well. For someone, I see for some of you, you're saying you're not quite sure, but it's a good thing to try to learn about yourself. Is where do you land? So I see we got a lot of savers. We have some spenders, and we have some money makers. I'll give you this is my one quick theory on all three of these. So the saver, you're usually really good. You're the person who, you'll have a pretty nice bank account. You'll have a pretty good savings, and you're careful. You conserve your money really well. But because you conserve your money well, I'm going to tell you the positive and the area of opportunity for each of these. So for the saver, you're usually really good at conserving your money, and you'll hold on to it. You keep a tight fist, and you don't spend much. But I'll tell you the area where the saver can also where the saver has an opportunity to improve, and that's in the area of growing your money. Because you're so used to saving, and you hold on to your money, you usually have a hard time investing it and taking risk with it, because you're like, wait, I did my job saving this cash. Now I don't want to take the risk. So your opportunities to grow your money is where you have that's an area where you can always build. For the money maker, you're the person who, like you said, you'll take side hustle after side hustle. You're the entrepreneur with a full-time job, or you're the person, you don't have a problem negotiating a raise. You've always been a high income earner, and that's always a good thing, because you have no issue making money. But when you make it, I'll tell you, the person who typically makes money well, they can have an issue keeping it, because they're so used to making more. They're like, I can go and make more of it, so I don't really have an issue with going out and making more. So they spend very freely. That's usually the free spender, and the person who has no issue just kind of using their money because they know, I know how to go get more. And so that's where that person lies. The other area that's not on here is the person who's a good money grower. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna sip my tea, as you can hear my throat. So the money grower, that's usually the person who's really good at investing, or who's good at flipping their money. They can do things that after it's there, they're really good at growing it and finding ways to allow it to grow. That's actually my space. So I love to grow my money. The tricky thing about the grower is that in the savings, you typically will not just keep a simple nest egg, because you know that a nest egg that's sitting dormant, you could be growing that money. So the grower, you usually won't keep just a stable emergency fund, because you're like, man, I don't want to see that much money not growing. So that's where they tend to have the issue. The spender, you're the person who, you like to enjoy life. You have a good time. You will buy what you like. You're going to enjoy your dollars. You're going to enjoy your life, because you typically say, we don't live long. We only live once. All the slogans were created for the spender, right? You have some great slogans, but on the other side, we know that you typically have to also save and create, keep a little bit of a nest egg so that you can make sure that you're always prepared. So those are just some quick points. That's outside of my presentation, but I always say that for us, we have to know where we're natural, because we're all natural at something. And then, someone always told me, you play to your strengths. So, where you're good, but then you also have to staff your weaknesses. So that may be where you find that financial advisor to help you in those other areas, because we need all three. Well, we need all four in order to be to holistically manage our money well. So you do want to make sure that you have all four skills: saving, spending, making money, and growing money. So keep that in mind. You want to know where you are and who you are and which one you do the most natural, and take advantage of that. Hit the gas in that space. But then you want to make sure that you're also constantly working in those other spaces so that you do those well. So our polls are done. Thank you for the results. We had some great answers come in, and this let me know kind of who who's in the room. This is great. And I see some answers still coming in the chat, which I appreciate. Feel free to keep talking in the chat. So I see someone said they think they're the grower. That's me. I really enjoy that space. I love that space. But we got to make sure that we keep our savings, because we just want to grow it all. We want to grow it all. Once you get addicted to growing, it's a fun space. All right, so Tea and Coffee Tuesdays. I'm so happy to be here with you again. My name is Martin Booker. I'm here from our Washington D.C. From Washington D.C. And I just want to mention, you can head right to that next slide, that this is not financial advice. So although I've studied finances for a while, I consider myself an expert. This is, what I'm going to provide today is general guidance. I'm going to share some information. I'm going to share some education, and, take what you can. And, of course, if you want to get very specific advice for your specific situation, because as I mentioned, personal finance is personal, then that's where you want to consult a financial advisor, because while I'm providing great information, all of our situations are different. So what works best for me may not work for you. And unless someone's looking at every detail of your financial picture, it's going to be hard for them to give you exact advice. So you do want to take advantage of talking to a financial professional if you have a chance. And there are free financial professionals that you can talk to, free and very low cost. So we will get into that. So let's get into the agenda. Let's talk about, some of the areas we're going to talk about. So of course, this entire presentation is about saving money. So I want to talk about some of those great ways to save and great ways to stretch your dollars today. And if you have questions, as I mentioned, put them in the chat. When we get to Q&A, I'm sure there'll be some opportunities for us to just have a conversation as well. So I'm looking forward to that. So now let's dive into some information. So now today, ways to save is where we're going to start. So I'm going to start with our first one, which is talking about debt. Let's talk about the importance of kind of clearing out some of our debt in order to save some money. This is an area that, we may not think about it as much, but the more we clear out debt, that's one less bill, that's some additional margin that we have. And that's a great way for us to just maximize our dollars, because we will not have to pay interest. As we know, most of our debt comes with some form of interest, where we have to, we have to pay some money to borrow some money. So on top of paying money to borrow money, we also have to, we know that we typically have that additional bill, and depending on the type of bill, that the amount that we pay per month can fluctuate, the type of debt, I'll say. So, when we have credit cards, of course, credit cards is a type of debt that typically comes with additional, where the minimum payments are going to increase depending on how much debt we have. So the more that we lower that balance of the full debt, the less that we have to pay per month. And that's more money that we have in our pockets every month. So that's something to keep in mind. We can use our debt reduction strategies to actually increase our margin, which is always exciting, because that's just more money to spend. I know when I was first looking for ways to find more money within my budget, before I decided, it's time to go work another job, the first thing I thought is, how much debt can I pay down so that I can eliminate some bills, and once I eliminated a few bills or even lowered those monthly minimums, That allowed me to just free up more money in my pocket. And the great thing is that when I didn't increase that debt, I didn't increase my bills. So so that's one place where we can go and find some money. And I also didn't have additional interest each month on those credit cards or those car loans or student loans, all those loans, right? That charge us to own them. So that's one way. A good thing to do if you're one of those people, we talked about our spenders, or for some of us who tend to use our credit cards a lot, and we continue to accumulate debt. One of the strategies that I've used to really focus when I wanted to get real serious about reducing my debt is I took all of my credit cards out of my wallet, and I took them. So I did not carry credit cards out of the house. And I made sure, and I also put them all in a nice little rubber band, and I put them in a drawer. I put them, actually, it was a little watch drawer that I had. I put all the credit cards in a watch drawer, and I made sure I didn't use them online. I didn't use them when I left the house, because I noticed when I would leave the house, it's like you have this like psychological thing where if my credit card is there and I don't have as much money as I wanted to have, then I would use my credit card sometimes in cases when I didn't necessarily need to. And in my mind, I would always tell myself, oh, I'm going to just pay that full balance back. But in actuality, when I didn't have to, sometimes I didn't. And I noticed that my debt significantly decreased when I stopped carrying my credit cards on me. And I always say that there are typically, actually, I'm gonna tell you about that in a second. So that's one good strategy for reducing, when you're focused on reducing your debt and you know that you want to reduce your debt in order to save more money, then take your credit cards out of your wallet. The first thing I used to tell myself, because these are some of the things that we trick ourselves into thinking. I used to tell myself, oh, if I don't have my credit card, what if an emergency happens and I need the amount of money that's on my credit card? In most cases, I haven't run into an emergency that in that very moment, I had no choice but to swipe my credit card. I've never been in quite a life or death situation that left me to where the credit card was the only thing that was going to save me in that moment. So when I took them out of my wallet, I didn't, I kind of freed myself of that thinking that I have to have at least one on me in case something happens. And I'd love to, feel free to prove me wrong. If you have a situation in the chat where your credit card was the only thing that would have saved you in that moment, or it did, feel free to write it in the chat. I'd love to hear about it. And it's possible. I just haven't come across it yet. And I'm perfectly fine with being wrong about that one. So feel free to tell me if you've had that situation. I'd love to hear it. So just write it in the chat about the time when the credit card was the only thing that could save you in that very moment. And you wouldn't have been able to go back home to get it and use it. So, and I just saw a really good point in the chat. So, which leads me to point number 3, which is with discipline, you can enjoy some savings from your credit card. As we know, with a credit card, we can use it to earn points. We can earn miles. We get discounts on certain spending. And when we have that credit card, depending on the type of perks that come with that credit card, we can benefit from some of those savings. But remember that those first 2 words, with discipline, we have to know. So yes, we get our points, we get all our points, but if we carry those credit card balances, then we end up in a situation where we actually could be paying more in the long run than we actually save. So if I carry that credit card balance and I'm getting $100 or $200 in interest charges every month, but I'm saving a certain amount, but I'm saving, on a trip, or maybe saving, 10% at this store and 40% at this store, then in those cases, I do have to be, I have to be careful, because I could in the long run be paying more in interest than I'm actually saving in the perks from that credit card. So you do want to make sure that you're careful and that you're paying off the balance every month so that you can truly reward from those benefits. So, in the best case scenario, I use my credit card, pay the full balance off, and enjoy the points and the perks that I get. And I'm still getting the credit card. I'm still getting the positive activity towards my credit score. So it's a win-win. But if I don't pay it off, then I know that I can actually hurt myself by paying more in interest in the long run. So carrying a balance can be counterproductive if you want to use it for credit card points. I always say that there are 3 credit card users, and I'm gonna just break these 3 down real quick. There's the very disciplined person. And if you're very disciplined with your credit card, you do exactly what we just discussed. You use it to make most of your purchases. You pay it off every month. And then you use those points to take trips or to enjoy free coffee or to just enjoy a little bit of a balance on your you enjoy some extra money. I had a person that I sat with when I did financial coaching consistently, and she was really good with paying off her credit cards. And she switched to paying everything on her credit card, and she would get about $100 to $150 a month every month for just using her credit card on everything, because they actually gave her cash instead of just other perks like travel for the credit card that she was using. So because she was very disciplined, she paid herself additional money with her credit card. So that's the first person. If you're very disciplined, that's how you can use a credit card. If you're the kind of disciplined person, this is where I fall, the kind of discipline. And one very important thing, one of the most important things about personal finance is knowing yourself and being very self-aware. That is going to take you a lot further than just making a ton of money or anything else. So I'm the kind of disciplined person. I'm the type of person who it's better for me to not have my credit cards on me, but I do want to still take advantage of some points, and I also want to still get the positive credit history. So I just attach a couple of things to my credit card, like on auto pay, and I allow those things to pay every month, or pay a bill. It could be a subscription, something very simple. It doesn't have to be anything major. It's something that you know that you're going to pay for. I allow that to hit my credit card every month, and I set auto pay to immediately pay to pay the full balance off when it's on the due date. So my credit cards aren't in my pocket, because I know, I'm only kind of disciplined. If I'm in the store or I'm at a restaurant and I just want to swipe it, I will. So I'm careful in that sense. And so I don't carry them on me. I just attach a bill to them, and I allow it to pay. I get my points, I get my benefits, but I make sure it gets paid off every month. But I just don't carry them in my wallet. So that's the kind of disciplined person. You're the second person. You can use them, but you want to be careful of how you use them. So you shouldn't have them on you. And then the third is the undisciplined person. You know yourself. If you got them, you're gonna max them out. You've told yourself that I'm going to just use this card for points and I'm going to pay it off every month. And you tried, but you still maxed it out. And you just realized that, hey, I'm going to use this money if it's in front of me. If you are that person, then in that case, the credit card may not be your best friend, and it may not be the thing that you use. So you may have to do what some of the personal finance experts said, which is put your credit cards in a block of ice in your freezer or cut them up. So, and that's perfectly fine until you get to that point of discipline. You just want to take a break from them, and that's okay. So if you're that person, that's okay too. And, so feel free to know that in that case, credit cards aren't your best friend at this moment. So those are 3 credit card users: the disciplined, the kind of disciplined, and the undisciplined. And those are the ways that you would use your credit. If you're the undisciplined and you still need to build your credit, there are other ways. So you could use maybe a small personal loan. You could use, there's if you have like a car loan or something like that, use that, because you'll consistently make that payment. If you're paying on your mortgage, that's perfectly fine, because that's also going towards your credit. So you can use those strategies, but you be careful in those situations. And I'll go ahead and answer a few questions. I may not catch them all. I see some questions in the chat. So I'll answer the ones that I see, and then of course we'll get to some more later. The question, so should I do a card transfer? Yes, that's not a bad idea if it is a lower interest rate card, or one of the cards that has free interest for a certain amount of time, like a 6-month or 1 year of no interest. But in that case, just make sure that you are aggressive at paying down that debt while you have the time. So keep that in mind. All right, let's head to the next slide. So when we think about debt, of course, we want, if we're paying down debt in order to free up margin, one of the things we want to think about is our debt reduction strategy. So we have what's called the debt snowball and the debt avalanche. The debt snowball allows you to list all of your debts in order and pay the lowest debt off fastest. So you start to add a little extra money towards paying off your lowest debt. So if you had 3 credit cards and a car loan and a student loan, you'll start with whichever one has the lowest balance and you attack it aggressively. Once that's paid off, you use the same money you used to pay that one off to move to the next debt. And it allows you to build momentum. There's been a study on it that said that it actually does build momentum, and it's a good way to pay off debt. So you can use that strategy. The other strategy is the avalanche, which will allow you to actually list those same debts in order, but you attack the one with the highest interest rate first. This allows you to pay, it's the more financially sound way of paying off debt, because you're paying off the one with the highest interest rate, you're attacking the one that's going to accumulate the most debt fastest. So that'll allow you to just pay it off faster. But it said that the snowball actually builds momentum and will keep people more aggressive at paying down debt. So, keep that in mind. And you can use the one that works best for you, because as we said, personal finance is personal. So let's look at the next slide. And I want to talk about a few ways that some strategies that have worked and things that I've just learned over the years through coaching and through teaching that have helped people to save a decent amount of money. So one is when we think about our lifestyle adjustments, I always tell people, so when we think about eating out, so breakfast is always cheaper than lunch, which is always cheaper than dinner. So that's something to keep in mind. So typically, if you want to go on a first date, or if you're just taking someone out on a date, a breakfast date is a good idea. So, it's the cheapest date you could possibly get, or what I like to call Brenner. Go out for Brenner. So, just go out for a nice, breakfast at dinner time. It actually will help you to save a decent amount of money. Or hey, even a family celebration. What if we got everybody together for breakfast instead of that dinner? So, breakfast with 10 people, it could maybe range it's a much cheaper range than if we were to do a full dinner, which could be, pretty expensive when we add in tips and taxes and everything else. So it's something to keep in mind. Breakfast is your cheapest meal of the day. Lunch is also cheap. So I would always tell people, pack your lunch. And if you're going to eat out every day, just have a breakfast sandwich or have some coffee and a croissant. But if you just have to spend some money. So for our spenders, you want to move to breakfast as your meal of choice. And then dinner, always cook dinner. So it's a way to save a couple of dollars. Our next is when we think about dining. So, we want to take advantage of all the discounts we can, and take a look at that article that's hitting the chat. We have the 99 ways to save article. It's floating around through the chat, but it's a great way to look at all the different ways to save money. Discount dining. So of course, take advantage of every special that we can find. A lot of places, they'll provide lunch specials. We provide, we can get coupons. I remember I worked at an agency here in DC, and every day someone would go and print out the Popeyes has a coupon that stays on their website all the time. It's just always there. And people, it wasn't the healthiest meal that we could have often, but they would print out about 15 of the Popeyes coupons and just lay it out for the staff so that everyone could take a coupon and go buy some lunch. And it was like a $2.99 meal or something like that. But like we made sure we took advantage of those coupons so that we can eat at a good price. So keep that in mind. Always check for coupons. And when you're buying anything, typically if I'm ever shopping online, I always would just do a quick Google search for coupons for any company that I'm spending money on. And then if you're not a person with a big appetite, splitting meals, just kind of getting one plate and splitting it with multiple people is all a good way to save a little bit of money. So let's head over to some more lifestyle adjustments and look at some other ways to save. So on living, this is one where I say, personal finance is personal. Your living situation better than others. So if you had to rent out a room or share some or move in with someone to share some housing to cut the cost, of course, we know that's always a great way to save some money. Housing is typically our largest expense. So if we can save money on housing, that's one of the biggest hacks that we can have to save a decent amount of money. So, it may be just a necessary sacrifice for a short period of time, but it's a good way to save. And when we figure out how to save there, then that's a great way to save. Another one, and another one is grooming. So one of the things that I had my brother, he would always go to barber schools to get his hair cut. And I was always wondering, like, why would you go to barber schools? Barber schools would always offer $5 haircuts all the time. And these were some really talented barbers. They were just in the process of learning. A lot of them had already been cutting hair for a long time. But by going to the schools or going to a cosmetology school to get your nails done, you can typically get free or sometimes very low cost ways of getting the same grooming that you love from someone who's, they may be still learning, but in a lot of times they are also very talented, because a lot of them have been doing it even before they started school. They're just now getting the credentials to keep going. And then the other, actually, this is one that I learned from my grandmother. My grandmother, who lives here in DC, she goes to the senior center that's right across from her house. And she, oh, that's a good idea, Judy, massage school. My grandmother, she goes to the senior center and she eats for 88 cents a day, which I just love. I always ask her, could she get a second meal? Because I'd meet her for lunch every day if I could for 88 cents. But, it's just a good way to get discounted meals. And she takes lots of trips that way too. The interesting thing about my grandmother is that for any of us that want to catch her and meet her for lunch, even though she's the one that's retired, her schedule is much more busy than ours. So we actually have to get on her schedule in order to meet up with her, because she does all of these activities and she's taken all these cheaper trips and things like that from just hanging out with her friends. And she gets lots of great discounts that way. So now let's talk a little bit about utility bills. So when we think about some of the ways, this is actually a practice of mine. Every year, I make a phone call to every company that I owe money to. And I just simply say, hey, my bill's a little high, and I'd love to know if there are some discounts or some ways that you can lower my bill. When I make this call, I tend to get some form of discount around between 15 and sometimes up to $40 a month on my bill, because they get on that call and they say, hey, Mr. Booker, you know what? You are a valued customer. And we want to keep your business. So let's look at some plans and let's look at some opportunities to save you some money. And they tend to always find a way to save me money. But let me tell you how I become a value customer. I always pay on time. I'm very much a person who pays on time all the time. I tend to not lock into contracts, which I'm going to talk about in a second, where it is cheaper, but by me not locking into contracts, I have a little bit of leverage on that company. And then I'm just, and I tend to stay with the companies for a while, but I am willing to walk away if they can't find me a discount. So, which leads me to the next point, which is the contracts can be cheaper. So typically, like we're saying with internet, cable, things like that, they'll always say, hey, if you, if you lock into this 2-year contract, we'll give you a 10% discount or 15% discount. But by me not locking into a contract, I get the leverage when it's time for me to walk out of necessity. Then I do my advantage so that I can make sure that that's a place where I can cut my expenses without an issue. So I always say, try not to lock into long-term contracts with things that are amenities and not necessities. So when we think about cable, TV, things like that, internet, it's a necessity now, but anything that's not a necessity, let's try not to lock into a long-term contract, because if I have to eliminate a bill, I want to be able to eliminate that one in the same day without an early termination fee. And that's what gives me a little bit of leverage when I say, hey, I'd love for you to give me some discounts. And if they can't, I'm going to shop around so that, I just make sure I don't stay loyal to the companies, because they, if they got to cut me off for not paying, they will do so. And then just make sure that when you think about, phone plans, if you get on a family plan, you may be able to save some money. So in some cases, even if someone's not in the same house as you, having all of you all pool your money together could be cheaper than having everyone on separate plans. And then you also want to take advantage of companies. There's places, I have a good friend of mine. He's, he does financial stuff as well. And he will do anything for a good discount. And he told me that the Walmart, the cell phone service that you get in Walmart, he said that they use the exact same cell phone towers as Verizon. So although his plan is only $30 a month, which is very cheap in comparison to my plan, He said he uses the same towers and gets the same cell service. He just has a plan that the name isn't Verizon, Sprint, one of the big companies. So that's another thing to look into. Look at some of the, stores with some of the, that may not be, it may not be a major cell phone company plan, but you can get really cheap, service through them and still quality service. All right, so let's quickly talk about some emergency savings. So I want to, this is another place where we can save money. We may not think about it this way. As we know, we're told our emergency savings is going to be like 3 to 6 months of our income. So our expenses per month. And we want to have that saved, because if we didn't have, if our income was to stop, we want to be able to have some savings to hold us until our income comes back. And they say 3 to 6 because it's 3 months if you have a 2-income household, and 6 months if you have a single income household. Because typically, if there's a 2-income household, hopefully both people won't lose their income at the exact same time. So that's where the 6 month or 3 months come into play, and they can be anywhere in between. But how does emergency savings save us money? Because when that big emergency comes, we may not have to put it on a credit card, or we may not have to take out, God forbid, a payday loan or something like that in order to pay for that expense. So we do want to make sure that we have ways to save. If we have the savings, we can have the nest egg that can keep us from tapping into some methods that would cost us more money in the long run when it's time to pay for an emergency. And of course, in order to build up that emergency fund, we want to make sure that we're tracking our spending, have a budget. I always say a budget is my favorite thing. It's what I live by. It's what I swear by. But if you know every dollar that you have coming in and every dollar you have going out, and you know the difference, you are going to be in a really good place when it comes to saving and managing your money. So you want to be able to look at where you can cut costs in order to save more. And then let's talk about when it comes to saving money. I always say that the natural order for saving money is we earn it, then we save it, then we start spending. So you want to know, if you can, set it up with automatic savings, and then ultimately over time, if you can, you want to aim to try to save 20% of your income. So of all the money you have coming in, try to save 20% consistently. Once you build up that emergency fund, you move that to growing it and by investing it in order to make more money. And then I wanted to share a couple of resources with you. So AARP has this great tool called the AARP Money Map. And one of the modules within Money Map is the savings planner. So with the savings planner, we can help you create the goals, build up for your emergency fund, or just save for whatever you're saving. I saw someone in the chat say they're saving for travel. Use the AARP savings planner to save more money. It's a great way to save. So feel free to use that and take advantage of that. And since we did talk about debt a bit, I want to mention our other tool, which is our AARP Debt Manager, which is another great way to save money. So take advantage of those tools. And, and I hope that you've heard at least one good savings tip or one that may work in your favor in the long run. So, let's have a little bit of dialogue. If you got some questions, I want to turn it back over to our team here at AARP for some Q&A or for any questions that we saw in the chat that I missed. I believe, Jacqueline, are you taking it from here?
Wow. That's a lot of good information, Martin. Thank you so much.
Thank
Your
you.
information, yeah. The information you shared is so valuable. I'm going to look into some of these tips and suggestions. I'm pretty much a saver, but that investing, I want to hold on to my money and know exactly where it is. But again, thank you so much. Joyce, do you have some questions in the chat? I saw a lot of questions coming up.
Yeah, I saw a lot of them. I know you answered quite a bit. What about especially cable TV and internet bills? I know you mentioned about, trying to get the cheapest one, but sometimes that reception is not worth it. What do you think about that?
I understand. And I would say, I understand that, in some cases we have to go with quality, right? So that you can make sure that you get the benefit that you need. And in those cases where you can't you don't want to sacrifice quality in spaces where it's a necessity, right? We have to be able to get on Zoom. We want good service. So I understand that. So in that case, you may sacrifice a little bit to have good quality there and pay a little bit more there. But then you find the areas where you can cut back. So, I may dine dine out once or twice, one or two less times a month because I have to pay for quality cable. And, you make the sacrifices and you weigh you balance out what's most important, and you pay where it's important, and then you make the sacrifice where you can.
Okay, that's good, because I know sometimes cheap is not always the best. I mean, it's frugal, but not always the best.
I agree.
I got that. Another one about, I like this one, is the dental school hygienist will clean your teeth under supervision. That's really good.
I actually just drove a friend to Philadelphia because she wanted to go to the dental school to have her work done. And in that moment, mine was completely blown. I never thought go to a dental school to have work done as opposed to paying through your insurance, because it was a whole lot cheaper. Her first visit, she paid a $100 copay, and she had 2 visits, and she had to get some major work done, and she got it done for a very cheap price.
Wow. See, those are the types of tips that we could use. If you don't have a dentist, it would be something that would be good. And then one last thing I like, somebody mentioned about breakfast and dinner.
Yeah.
Breakfast, lunch, and
Breakfast,
so
lunch, and
would you suggest going like to a buffet place area, or how does somebody, how do you do this breakfast dinner type of thing when it's the pandemic? Because this is the pandemic time and we want to save, we want to be mindful, but we want to still have that interaction. What do you think we should do about that?
Joyce, I'm glad you mentioned that, because this is a time when we do have to be safe. So we want to be careful in like places like buffets and things like that, because our, safety first, of course. But I mean, I think in those cases, you just want to, like you said, a buffet is a good one because, if you eat at the right time of day, you mess around and won't eat the rest of the day, right? So that one meal covers you. That one meal covered you for most of the day. But also it's just a matter of if you focus on the cheaper meal, typically breakfast can range from, $3 to $7. Lunch may range from $5 to $13. And then dinner is going to range much higher, right? It could be anywhere from $10 to $20, right? So we want to just think, where can I, if I'm going to eat out, let me go and have the cheaper meal. And if I have a nice size breakfast, I might be able to skip lunch and then eat dinner in the house.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
No
Okay,
problem.
so that's pretty much, you've covered almost everything. I know is Meals on Wheels? Is that another good thing for
That is.
seniors? I mean, talk to us about how do you know anything about that, Martin?
Things like that. Yep. And we have services like there's services like Meals on Wheels, or there's other organizations that will provide cheaper meals, cheap or free meals, for you. You just have to sign up and or reach out. And they can drop meals off to you almost daily, or sometimes a couple of days a week, and that's a good way to save some money as well. So you can have days where you don't spend any money on food. So taking advantage of those. And I'm seeing, I hope everyone's engaging in the chat, because people are putting some great ideas in the chat. I just saw someone mention the soup at Whole Foods. It's it's pretty cheap, and they're saying that they get nice hot meals from Whole Foods for a good price. So
I just saw that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, things like that. And everyone, please share your best money saving tip in the chat, if you don't mind. Whatever you do that has saved you the most, let's share it amongst everyone so that we can all take advantage.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, back to you, Jacqueline.
Oh, wow. So many really good tips. I've learned some stuff. Thank you again so much, Martin.
Thank you thank you.
So before we close out, we'd like to take a quick pulse with the poll. What 1 to 2 things do you think you will do to help boost your financial resilience? Review my contracts, such as your cell phone bill, cable bill, as Martin discussed earlier. Review and ask questions about my monthly bills. Save X amount of dollars per month. Evaluate subscription services. Consolidate my debt. Or do you have something other? Put it in the chat. Let us know what money saving tips you're going to do. Okay. It looks like it's kind of a toss-up between reviewing the contracts and cell phone bill, which I need to do more often, and review and ask questions about the monthly bill. kind of 47% for contracts and 38% for monthly bills. Good suggestions today. We can all take away some tips from this. So thank you so much. Thank everyone. Thank you for participating today. We hope you feel encouraged and inspired to utilize all these great tips that we got from Martin today. Thank you to our guest, Martin Booker. Thank you to our moderator, Joyce Howard, our volunteer production crew, and Olivia Payne and Joyce, our tech specialist, Vince King, our AARP staff, and of course, all of you. Our next Tea and Coffee monthly meeting is Tuesday, February 8th at 9 a.m. We'll be meeting with Coach E, also known as Eric Nall, the host of Soul Steppers, one of the most popular programs offered by AARP California. Coach E will be talking about his thoughts on achieving your optimal wellness, exercise, health tips, and the highlighting the success of Soul Steppers. Join us for a Step Up, Step Out, and Soul Step. If you have any questions, suggestions about Tea and Coffee Tuesday, please reach out to AARP's Atisha Jones. Again, I'm Jacqueline Cole. Thank you for being with us today. This concludes our program.
Thank you very much. This is really helpful. Just wanted to throw that out there.